means, I mean, 18 AD, if you took it literally and you believed in these things, you would say it's the coming of age of Jesus Christ. He'd be 18 years old. So he's legal enough to drink the wine that he made. um, Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John, his name's Andy. The sky fell over cheap Korean monster movie scenery and spilled into the mezzanine of the crushed capsule hotel between the Disney abattoir and the chemical refinery. I knew I was in trouble, but I thought I was in hell. More on that later, but first we have a track to listen to, selected by Brother Andy. What do you got in store for us today?
Well, in store for us today, we have a band that I was actually shocked that when I checked with you that you had not really listened to or dug deep into, though I know you're obviously familiar with the name. And that's Queens of the Stone Age. So, given that, that information, I figured, man, there's a bunch of songs I'd like to give you from them. But let's just, unlike me, for once, start at the beginning and we'll work our way through. So I'd really like you to check out a track by them called 18 AD.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think I am laboring probably under the misconception. I got it somewhere in my head a while back that Queens of the Stone Age were more of a sort of heavy rock stroke light metal kind of band that really wasn't my cup of tea. So that's probably why I never listened to them. And once you get that sort of idea in your head, you close that avenue off quite quickly.
Yeah,
and whether you're right or wrong, so be interesting to see how wrong I am. All right.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too, because this is very early on, so it gives you shades of where they would go with this sound, but it doesn't mean that they would necessarily dogmatically adhere to this sound.
Sure.
It was sort of like finding a new genre, really, or a subgenre, I should say. So yeah, go off, give it a listen. I'd be interested to hear if it flies too close to that metal sun. But yeah, come back and let me know what you've made of it.
Good. Interesting. That opening riff sounds like Master of the Universe by Hawkwind. I listened to it the other day. And it's got kind of like a distanty, spacey rock sound to it. And then we just heard a second or so of a very much more focused and up close dirty bass. That's just short song. Yeah. Why not? interesting. So, yeah, that bass sounds great. It just always reminds me of like, it sounds like saggy. I imagine it to be like the tendons or ligaments of a long distance runner, long retired. That's what they sound like. Um, yeah, really nice sound. And the guitar as well. This time closer and more focused in. That riff, and then in comes the drums and the vocals. Um, well, vocals have a kind of like a late 60s stoner sound to them, like they're being sung in a side room behind a beaded curtain and a column of incense smoke or something else. Yeah, actually, that's giving me flashbacks to something else. That's really interesting. I'm picturing Afghan coats as well. But yeah, um, yeah, it's got lots of like vibes of late 60s, early 70s kind of West Coast stoner rock, that original stoner rock, acid rock, what you want to call it, that sort of thing. Really interesting. It's a nice sound. Yeah, that was really fun. There's lots of elements in there. I laughed because that last 10 seconds just sounded really Zeppelin to me. It's really nice to the blues driven lead guitar. Sounded wonderful. Um, yeah, they got into into a certain groove. They just rode it, and it was interesting. And at about 120, it changed to a sort of. It was a bit more muscular rather than just jamming along, and that kind of gave me snatches of a bit of like almost early Dinosaur Jr. or something. Probably wrong. And I got a picture of like the lead guitar as just like drunk, and it keeps like leaning those lazy sort of bits into the rhythm section, and those just push him upright again. And he's just spewing these notes. It sounded brilliant, you know. Doesn't sound great when you put it in those sort of visual terms, but it did. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And a lot of Hendrix as well. And when they came back to 10, something like that, um, and then the leagues carried on, but with sort of full sound rather than that sort of three-quarter pace. Um, did sound a bit sort of Hendrix. Yeah, interesting. I have no idea when this was. I would suspect it's must be after the 80s. I don't know, it's late 90s. No idea. It sounds more modern, just in the approach and everything. But yeah, I meant to say the vocals. There was multiple, wasn't there? There was a higher register as well, and that gave it that sort of eerie, sort of bad trip vibe that you got from some psychedelic sort of again West Coast stuff is what I'm picturing. But yeah, lots of stuff. There's something really obvious I'm missing here in terms of an influence that I should be naming, but I can't think. But really enjoyable, lovely sound, lovely tone to it all. I like the drummer as well. He was smacking it away, but he wasn't like going overboard. It was measured attack, which I really liked. Yeah, the whole band sounded great actually. So yeah, find out more about this by going back and chopping it up with Andy.
All right, so you have returned. What did you make of 18 AD by Queens of the Stone Age?
Quite a few things. One thing I didn't make was what the hell the title's about, but there you go. So it starts off opening riff in the right channel. Um, really similar to Hawkwind, Master of the Universe. It's Search of Space, 1971. I only caught that because I listened to it about 2 days ago. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't, to be fair. But it has a touch of that sort of space rock otherness feel to it because it's distant. The sound quality of it is down, and muffled and whatever. And then it's joined by his very much earthbound companion, the bass. It has that sort of baggy motorbike chain sound to it. I think I see the reaction. It sounds like the tendons um, of a long retired, long distance runner. There's a sort of saggy quality to it. Anyway, it sinks in with the first original riff, so they're fitting together. And then stage front and center, the guitar comes in newly focused and with much clarity and takes back the riff and takes over it. It sounds really great. The drums kick in, and with them the vocals, which are thin and distant from somewhere behind a beaded curtain and a row of Afghan coats. The smell of petunia oil is overwhelming, and suddenly, yes, I'm back in the doorway of the corridor entrance to Fat Pete's shop. And it just made me think of that straight away with that sort of the vocal. I don't know what, because to get to Fat Pete's shop, and we've referenced it, I've not spoken about it for a long time, but
No, but
we have in the past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
To
haven't
get to his
forgotten
shop,
that beat.
you to go in between two shops into a little courtyard. And there was the entrance to Fat Pete's, and also a fire escape went up to a tattoo parlor above. So you walked in, and it was very much going through the wardrobe into Narnia, but a sort of weird petunia oil smelling Narnia with sitars. And you walk in, and they'd be playing like Swedish jazz or some fucking weird shit. I mean, sometimes Roy Ayers, and back before anyone rediscovered Roy Ayers, as it were, when there's all of this white label stuff was going for 100 quid a record, and this is 30 odd years ago. But he also had one of the finest comic and graphic novel shops in the country as well, which is why I went. But yes, that sort of sound, this would be something like what we'd be playing. And you did actually have to go through a load of Afghan coats and smell of old camel and shit, and then some weird hippie shit, and then you'd be in. So yeah, that's what it just give me a little flashback. There is a nice sort of late 60s, early 70s sort of stoner vibe to this. The drummer is really interesting. It sounds like somebody slapping flyers on a windscreen for a secret gig. He has got this aggression, but it's tempered. It's not animal. Oh no, all over the place, hitting everything. He's just smacking the shit, but not at 100 miles an hour. And the dual vocals, because there's a higher register as well,
Yeah.
just made me think of very sort of late 60s West Coast, San Francisco-ish type thing. It had that sort of almost, bad trip vibe to it. There's something like a bit wrong about it. So I catch the words "There's no tomorrow" and then over and over, "clear and forgotten." So I guess it's some sort of general existential insight gained when chomping down on a bag of mushrooms or something. Um, whatever. Um, the music then changes. This is quite a short number, this, but the music then changes around 120 to a more muscular and introspective sound, which is more kind of late 80s sort of alternative rock sounds. It kind of has that sound from the alt rock pre-grunge. And I want to say it's like little bits of "You're Living All Over Me," early Dinosaur Jr. with something else, but I'm probably wrong. But it's somewhere around all that as well. Um, anyway, in comes this heavy bluesy lead guitar, which is lashings and lashings of like acid rock. And at this point, it could easily be like Hendrix and Zeppelin in a blender,
Mhm.
because there's bits of that as well. So I'm really enjoying the riffage. Um, and when it goes through this bit, it's kind of like the lead guitar is a drunk, and he's in a sort of triangle of rhythm section, and he kind of leans into them with these chords, and they kind of push him back into the center again. It does a bit more, spills a few more notes, and then it leans back into it again, and then pushes back in the center. Really nicely done. It's really enjoyable. Um, and then around the 2 minute 10 mark, the drummer rediscovers probably his other stick, but anyway, the previous beat, and he sort of like, because it was like a almost not half, but maybe two-thirds, three-quarters of the sort of tempo that the original bit was. And he goes
Absolutely.
back into that pace, and the band's efforts redouble. Back comes the vocals, and they repeat over and over, "There is no tomorrow." Now, this could be some sort of nihilistic outlook, or it could be time is a construct, or as Douglas Adams would say, time is an illusion, lunchtime doubly so. But anyway, whatever the message is, I'm sure it makes more sense if you're completely out your gourd. Um, the lead is doing some lovely work here. The tone of it's just wonderful. And the drummer is still smacking the shit out of his kit, but as you say, in a sort of um, measured, menacing way. And then about the last 10 seconds, it shifts down a gear. And that drop is really Led Zeppelin as well. It's great.
Mhm.
And then it finishes. So yeah, really enjoyable. Really enjoyable. Had a lovely sound to it as well.
Awesome. So it didn't get too close to metal for you at all. It doesn't sound like a great. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. Yeah, let's get into Queens of the Stone Age. They're an American rock band formed in Seattle in 1996. The band was founded by vocalist and guitarist Josh Homme, who we've talked about plenty on the channel in different
Um,
videos. And it was shortly before he returned to his native Palm Desert, California, where he would settle as the home of their home. Hami has been the only constant member throughout the multiple lineup changes, and since 2013, the lineup has consisted of Hami, Troy Van Leeuwen on guitar, lap steel, keyboards, percussion, backing vocals, Dan Fertitta on keyboards, guitar, percussions, and backing vocals, and John Theodore on drums and percussions. So, formed after the dissolution of Hami's previous band, Caius, the band originated from the spread of the Palm Desert music scene. The band's self titled debut album was released in 1998 and was recorded with Hami singing and playing all of the instruments except for the drums, which were provided by former Caius member Alfredo Hernandez. Bassist Nick Oliveri joined the band for its accompanying tour and soon became co-lead vocalist alongside Hami. The band's second studio album, Rated R, was released in 2000 and featured Mark Lanigan as guest vocalist and was the band's major label debut with Interscope Records. Yeah, they had a really Lanigan and Hami had a really strong relationship.
oh,
It
cool.
was critically and commercially successful and featured the breakout single The Lost Art of Keeping a Secret, More on that later because I'm going to have you probably check that out in the near future. The band's third studio album, Songs for the Deaf, was released in 2002 and featured Dave Grohl on drums, alongside contributions from Elaine Johannes and Natasha Schneider. After Oliveri's and Lanigan's respective departures in 2004 and 2005, Hami once again became the band's sole lead vocalist. Van Leeuwen and drummer Joey Castillo collaborating on Lullabies to Paralyze and Era Vulgaris in 2007. So Lullabies to Paralyze was 2005, and the aforementioned Era Vulgaris, again, 2007 release. After several years of inactivity, the band signed to independent label Matador Records in 2013 and released a loose trilogy of albums over the next decade. Like Clockwork was released in 2013, Villains came out in 2017, and In Times New Roman came out in 2023. The trilogy brought further acclaim and commercial success, with Like Clockwork becoming the band's first album to top the Billboard 200 chart. The band has been nominated for 9 Grammy Awards, 4 of them for Best Hard Rock Performance, 3 for Best Rock Album, and 1 each for Best Rock Performance and Best Rock Song. The band also has a large pool of contributors and collaborators and is known for incorporating elements of blues, electronica, and krautrock into its riff-oriented and rhythmic hard rock, coupled with Hami's distinct falsetto vocals and unorthodox guitar scales. In 1995, Josh Homme moved to Seattle, where he briefly joined Screaming Trees as a touring guitarist. He later formed a new band called Gamma Ray, which released the eponymous Gamma Ray EP in 1996, featuring Born to Hula and If Only Everything, which would later appear on the Queens of the Stone Age self-titled debut as If Only. The EP featured Van Connor of Screaming Trees and drummer Victor Indrizo. Gamma Ray changed their name in 1997 after the German power metal band Gamma Ray threatened to sue. The name Queens of the Stone Age came from a nickname given to Caius by their producer Chris Goss. So again, Caius was the band that he was in before the dissolution, and then, changing to Gamma Ray, which then became now Queens of the Stone Age. Hami said of the name, "Kings would be too macho. The kings of the Stone Age wear armor and have axes and wrestle. The queens of the Stone Age hang out with the kings of the Stone Age's girlfriends when they wrestle. Rock should be heavy enough for boys and sweet enough for the girls. That way everyone's happy and it's more of a party. Kings of the Stone Age is too lopsided." The first release under the Queens of the Stone Age name was the song we listened to today, 18 AD, released on Roadrunner Records' compilation album Burn One Up, Music for Stoners. It featured guitarist Dave Catching, as well as the bassist Milo Bienecker and drummer Eva Nohan of the Dutch stoner rock band Beaver, owing to connections Hami made while living in Amsterdam for a few months following the Caius breakup. The band's first live appearance was at Seattle's OK Hotel on November 20th of 1997, with Cameron on drums, Mike Johnson of Dinosaur Jr. on bass, and John McBain of Monster Magnet on guitar. In December that year, the band released a split EP that was Caius Queens of the Stone Age, which featured 3 tracks from the Gamma Ray sessions as well as 3 Caius tracks recorded in 1995 prior to their breakup. Hame returned to Palm Beach, California, where he released Queens of the Stone Age's self-titled debut album in 1998 on Stone Gossard's and Reagan Hager's label Loose Groove Records, and on vinyl by Man's Ruin Records. Hami played guitar and bass on the album, the latter credited to Hami's alter ego, Carlo von Sexren. Alfredo Hernandez on drums, and several other contributions by Chris Goss and Hutch. Hami reportedly asked the Screaming Trees vocalist Mark Lanigan to appear on the record, but he was unable to do so because of other commitments. I'm going to put a pin here in their history and timeline at this point because I'm sure we will be covering subsequent releases from them in the future beyond this track 18 AD. So let's dig into this interesting album and song. So let's start with this idea of stoner rock slash desert rock, and ensure that the designation is clearly defined. So the descriptor stoner rock is attributed to the title of the aforementioned 1997 Roadrunner Records compilation, Burn One Up Music for Stoners. Desert rock is also interchangeably used as a descriptor and was coined by Meteor City Records intern around the time the label released the 1998 stoner rock compilation, Welcome to Meteor City. However, not all stoner rock bands would fall under the descriptor of desert rock, since bands under this subgenre tend to include more hard rock characteristics. Nearly all of the songs on the compilation Burn One Up Music for Stoners, also simply known as Burn One Up, were either previously unreleased or recorded specifically for the compilation, with the exception of 4 of the 14 total tracks. Notably, this release would be the first recorded appearance of the California rock band Queens of the Stone Age. The track features traditional desert rock vibe that serves as a meaningful and noteworthy transitional song for Josh. The Kaya sound is an obvious influence, while the song also signals the direction Josh wanted to take Queens of the Stone Age moving forward into the release of their self-titled debut album. Reviewers and critics often praise the song's heavy riff, slow, powerful tempo, and the unique blend of fuzz and atmosphere. Many fans consider 18 AD an underappreciated gem because it is a deep cut that was not widely released. They also rank the song among Queens of the Stone Age's top 10 tracks because of the pioneering sound captured therein that would go on to define the sound and provide the blueprint for much of the band's output moving forward. Over at the online publication InSounder, they wrote of Hami's contribution to rock music, citing his work in Caius and Queens of the Stone Age, and even this track as key factors in the development and proliferation of desert slash stoner rock and its movement. Queens of the Stone Age shaped a sound that profoundly affected music and its history. They took hard rock, blues, psychedelia, and drones, mixed it all up, and added a tiny bit of sweetness and cheekiness. They created an entirely new genre and helped other bands from similar backgrounds to emerge. Today, when we talk about desert rock, also sometimes called stoner rock, an epithet most or much of the appreciated, not much appreciated by the bands in it, we think about bands like Mondo Generator, Masters of Reality, Sleep, often referred to as the pioneers of the genre, together with Caius, Fu Manchu, Clutch, Sons of Otis, Corrosion of Conformity. And more recently, the band Patron, the brightest example of French desert rock in which members of Queens of the Stone Age also play. So let's jump into these lyrics, of which, as you noted, there aren't many. There is no yesterday. There is no tomorrow. Can't look, can't speak. Another word, as far as you know. Over and over. Clear and forgotten. Over and over. Over and over. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. And yeah, it definitely sounds like the mantra one would chant if they load up on a bunch of peyote and get lost in the American Southwest desert for an evening. I have no idea. The name has always struck me though because 18 AD just I don't know why, but I just think of like here in the States, adulthood, like 18, you're legally an adult. Maybe it's like after the death of your youth or your innocence or your, designation as a minor. Um, the sort of 18 AD. But then the lyrics go on to not really provide any clear nuance or illustration as to what it could be about other than tripping out of your ass. So, yeah, I really have no idea. But the spacey lyrics definitely lend to the spacey atmospheric sound of the music for sure, as you were quick to kind of point out in your listening experience. So, yeah, man, that is Queens of the Stone Age for now, and their track 18 AD.
I just Googled while you were speaking. Key events in 18 AD. Roman military operations in the east. Germanicus Caesar, the chief commander in chief of the Roman East, arrived in Syria. As we know, there was conflict with Piso, the governor of Piso, in Armenia, and Germanicus's illness and return, and the exile of um, von Oz from Antioch. I mean, it just sounds like the Scrabble names at this point. But yeah, so not really a lot happening. It's all very Roman centric. I'm sure there's other stuff going on. But yeah, so I puzzle me why that was the case. That means, I mean, 18 AD, if you took it literally and you believed in these things, you would say it's the coming of age of Jesus Christ. He'd be 18 years old. So he's legal enough to drink the wine that he made. um,
Uh,
if you into that sort of thing. Yeah, it's interesting about the desert rock sort of genre name because I'm just thinking when, but I think probably for quite a number of years prior to that, there was desert rock across large parts of Africa. That's what they call their music. But bless them. Yeah, I've never heard of desert rock being referred to American bands. I very much heard of stoner rock, but
yeah.
not that particular terminology, which is always interesting to find out. Every day's a school day. Saturdays and Sundays, because that would be horrible. Um, but yeah, and you mentioned one of their later records being something sort of about New Roman
Yeah, at Times New Roman.
Times New Roman. Just reminded me because there's a Camper Van Beethoven album called New Roman Times.
Oh,
Um, I
that's
doubt it's
interesting.
related. I think it's probably more to do with the font than it is to do with Camper Van Beethoven, but it's interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it
yeah,
is. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed this first spin of theirs, and I'm looking forward to sort of like my own version of, your REM quest that you've taken me on, and other bands too. Obviously, PJ comes to mind, and Nick Cave. So yeah, and Drake for that matter. So yeah, I'm gonna try to take a little page out of your book and actually adhere to like chronological order and maybe unveil some other tracks by them moving forward. Um, go ahead, please, John.
because at least one of them, probably your man, was part of them Crooked Vultures or whatever it's called. You know,
Yes, he's the lead
the
singer
John
and
Paul
guitarist for them
Jones.
Crooked Vultures.
Yeah,
That
yeah. So that all makes sense. That sort of Zeppelin
yes,
influence along the line, and there's definitely Hendrix in there and other stuff as well. But I mean, Jay Masters could easily gone down the heavy metal route as a guitarist, and he sort of teeters on the edge of it in some of his stuff sometimes. So I thought that's quite a sort of connection as well.
yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting. Great
Cool.
title.
I'm super stoked that you liked it. And I look forward to bringing them down the line in the future. Guys, if you have any Queens of the Stone Age suggestions you'd like us to check out, we'll definitely add it to the list. I'll try to work around that in sort of the future episodes that I want to cover from them. But would love to hear what from them you guys would like to see on the channel, perhaps on a future Friday episode or something like that. If there's any other bands of like contemporaries of theirs that you'd like us to check out, anything, just drop it down in the comments field below. We'd love to hear what you guys have to think about Queens of the Stone Age. And hopefully, if you haven't, you will like, share, and or subscribe. We really do appreciate it. And it goes a long way to helping us here at the channel. It only takes a little bit out of your time, and we really do appreciate that. So, all that out of the way, hopefully, John and I catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audio Files. We'll see you later, guys.